Hi folks, I didn't want us to get too bamboozled by lots of details in my talk on Sunday, so I'll just put a few of these thoughts in this video here. I guess we come to this passage in Genesis chapter 6, and there's loads of weird stuff in there, like the sons of God, the daughters of humans, the Nephilim, and we're thinking, who on earth are these people? And we get quite distracted by all of it. There are some things we can say though, aren't there? I mean, for a start, Genesis is very old, and it shouldn't surprise us if there are some things in it which the original hearers would have understood, but that we go, oh, I'm not really sure what that's all about. That shouldn't surprise us. Also, what we can say very clearly in chapter 6, verse 3 is that God is displeased with whatever is going on here. My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. He's not pleased with whatever is going on. Also, we can see some of the nature of the sin in here, because the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. So they saw and they took. Sounds like Adam and Eve with the fruit, doesn't it? They saw it was pleasing and they took it. That's what these guys are doing, and they are marrying any of them they chose. Well, that sounds like maybe more than one, doesn't it? And I think it does. The language tends to suggest that it's not just any of them, but all of them that they chose. They were polygamous, in other words. So there's definitely sin going on here. But who are these guys? Well, there's disagreement, and I don't want to be too strong on who these people are. Some think that the sons of God could be the godly line of Seth. Remember in chapter 5 we've been looking at that line, and what they're doing is they're intermarrying with the ungodly line of Cain, who we saw in chapter 4, who were a complete mess. And that's not good, because that's intermarrying, and it's sort of going to dilute the godliness of that line. Could be that, couldn't it? It sort of seems to fit with the context of where things have been going. Maybe. Others have suggested that these are angels. Angels are the sons of God, and that can be a term for angels, certainly. And there are suggestions that maybe 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 to 6, you can look it up, 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4 to 6, which is sort of talking about what happened before the flood, could be referring to these fallen angels. Okay, that might make sense. It's got some biblical support for that. And the same in Jude 6 as well, referring to these events. So the angels are the sons of God, and they come and they have illicit relationships with the daughters of humans, and that's transgressing God's boundaries. Not sure what that noise was, sorry. Transgressing God's boundaries, and therefore this must be wrong. And I have no idea how any of that can possibly work. But clearly that would be really, really very evil. So it could be that. It's got some biblical support. There's yet another idea, though, which is that maybe the sons of God are what the sons of God normally are in the Old Testament, which are kings. The son of God was the king. And so these are kings, and what they're doing is they're marrying anybody they choose. Any woman they fancy, they're just taking them and marrying them, lots of them. And if that's the case, there's a sort of power play going on here as well, isn't there? The powerful are well, basically abusing the unpowerful in that way. And that would fit with the Nephilim, I suppose, because the Nephilim in verses 4, they're described as heroes of old, men of renown. Well, if they are the offspring of these relationships, then I guess they would be, wouldn't they? They would be powerful people. And then there's a power play going on here, and the sin becomes about power as well as about sexual sin, perhaps. Maybe. But then again, the Nephilim, it literally refers to the fallen ones. And they could be fallen angels, couldn't they? We see also later in the Bible, in Numbers chapter 13, the Nephilim appear once more, only once more. And there we're told that the Anakites, the really scary people in the Promised Land, who the Israelites are terrified of and don't want to fight, well, they are descendants of the Nephilim. Now, does that mean the Anakites are scary because they're giants, they're huge, in which case the Nephilim were sort of giants, and maybe they were angelic in some way, and that's why they're so big physically? Or is it that the Anakites are big and scary in that they're really powerful rulers? In which case the Nephilim were really powerful rulers and they're descendants of them in that way. And there's so many options, aren't there? And it can all get quite confusing. Hence, I'm doing this little video and not bunging it all into the talk on Sunday. I think that's all I need to say. Oh yeah, no, there is one more thing that I need to say, which is that there's one interesting theory put forward by a guy called Bruce Waltke, who's got a really great commentary on Genesis, and he sort of combines the two, and he says maybe these are rulers, they're kings, but we can fit it with 2 Peter and Jude by saying they're influenced by demons, by fallen angels, and their sort of power is an evil power because they're being influenced by demons, in which case again there's great evil going on and God must act. Now all of that is unclear and we don't know, and there's much disagreement and there's been lots written about this, and it's okay not to know. It's okay. All we need to know is that the Lord is really unhappy with human sin. So I'll read that to you again, verse 3, chapter 6, verse 3. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal, or could be corrupt, is the alternative translation. So they're corrupt. Humans are corrupt. And that's why the Lord acts in judgment. It's because human beings are corrupt. Either they are corrupt because they are doing the sexual sin or the abuse, they are the ones perpetrating it, or they're corrupt because they're maybe inviting it, if they're inviting angelic beings somehow to have illicit relationships with them, however on earth that could work, which case maybe they're doing it because they want to increase their status or increase their life and try and attain eternal life as death has come into the world by having illicit relationships with angelic beings. Wow, so much uncertainty, right? And it's okay that we're uncertain about it. Sticking to the main thing, human sin. It's human sin that has reached this horrific stage, whatever this horrific stage is, and the Lord decides to act. Verse 5, the Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Wow. The Lord regretted that he'd made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. It's really, really sad, isn't it? And yet, verse 8, but Noah found favour in the eyes of the Lord. And we can be hugely thankful that the Lord does lavish grace, favour on one man who he uses to rescue a human race who are an absolute mess.